welcome everyone to episode 5 of the Information Podcast. We have Aaron Slayback from the way back, finally in front of the camera. He is the genius behind the scenes, the engineer, the one who literally puts all this together. Without Aaron, we would have absolutely nothing but conversations that would not be recorded or edited. So Aaron, first of all, thank you so much for everything you do. It's finally a chance for us to sort of put you in the hot seat, see how you're doing, see what your life has been. So first of all, thank you again for everything.
Yes, thank you.
I know those who are watching and listening are very appreciative. But one of the first questions we can ask is, who are you? Your vocation story. How did you end up here? What was your life that made everything happen, domino effect down up into this point?
Yeah, so I was originally born in Pennsylvania, but I moved to a town in Alabama known as Dothan. It's actually a city, and so it's a pretty decent sized city. So I grew up there from 5 until I moved out of there. But so I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic. So I'm a cradle Catholic in a Bible Belt area. So that was interesting growing up for sure. But ever since my first communion, I've been really enthralled with understanding the priesthood and what the visible priesthood meant to me at that time, and through from there until I was, I'd say probably in 11th grade, I started discerning, really between two paths for me to post high school. One was priesthood and one was music. I started falling in love with music in 7th grade, mainly because of my friend, one of my best friends, was in band, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. And so we did. And so I fell in love with that, with music, band, and all the likes. And so I was wanting to be hoping to be a band director. And so I went on a discernment retreat at the monastery and at St. Ben's in Benedict, Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
And so really great time. I felt the Lord just like calling me to something. I thought it was music. Here I am. So you can determine where this story is going. Not to spoil or anything. I got my Bachelor of Music Education from Troy University in 2011, and then I decided a year later to be a full-time youth minister. Now, how that happened is, as I was finishing up my degree, I started really being involved with the church a lot more, especially in my home parish, and I started being involved with youth ministry and really falling in love with that too. And so again, more discernment, more understanding. And this was the first time I actually discerned and was just giving everything back over to the Lord. And so doors were opened, and I became youth minister in April 1st, 2014 at Holy Name of Jesus Catholic Church in Niceville, Florida. And I served as youth minister for 7 years, and it was 7 really wonderful years. And I thank the Lord for me being in that position. All while one of my very dear best friends, who is now Father Doug Martin, he was an Anglican priest who became Catholic and had started the process to becoming a priest within the church. And as he was doing that process, we were just still communicating with each other. And I started feeling my fire being grown into for the priesthood again. And I started really questioning what was going on in my life, of like, what's next, what's going on. I've been at Holy Name for about 5.5, 6 years then, made it through COVID, and well, somewhat, as much as we could, as the lockdowns and everything. And it's like, okay, what's next? And it eventually led to me going to his ordination before COVID, but going to his ordination and just feeling the really, really big call from the Lord. And then just when people start saying, hey, you should be a priest, it's like, oh, okay. All right, Lord, I get what you're throwing at me here. And so, I eventually applied to be a seminarian for the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee, where I was doing ministry, which is where Niceville is located in the Panhandle of Florida. And I was accepted, and I was graciously told that I was going to be coming here to St. Vincent de Paul for my what is known as pre-theology, now discipleship stage. And now I have completed that, got a master's in philosophical studies, and now I am working towards priesthood and ordination and all that wonderful stuff. And so I am in second configuration of psych theology with Gabe,
in the same class right there.
and that's kind of in a nutshell.
Not the elevator pitch.
Yes.
The elevator pitch. We went through
We went through a couple of floors there, but
I try to stop it at one floor.
We're gonna stop at a couple of them again. We're gonna go back out.
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like watching Elf. You have to hit all the buttons on an Empire State Building.
Put it in Christmas.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
And the letters of PT.
Oh, yes. There you go. So you mentioned in your story that you studied for music education. When one studies music, you're studying under a specific instrument and in that realm. So I guess my question would be, what did you study specifically, and what stuck out about music that why did you want to go towards music beyond band? Because when you're in it, it's a lot of work, and you're like, I can't imagine that I'm doing this anymore. I studied music for 4 years in college, so I can relate. So what was your share there?
I grew up growing. Whenever I joined band in 7th grade, I started learning playing the trombone. So that pretty much became my instrument up until today of like my primary of playing. And so trombone was my thing. As I started learning more about music and started getting into it, composing started becoming a little more of not my thing, but like my hobby, I guess. And so also with the love of music came with this deeper understanding of like almost, I didn't have words for it whenever I was going through all this, but now that I've gone through philosophy and some theology and understanding the human condition of like how music just really, how music allows us to just really go into the human experience and really kind of like capture emotions, capture raw understanding of what human beings are experiencing, are doing, whether it's from sadness to being angry to being really in jubilation of what's going on. And just like knowing that I am either creating music by composing it or creating music by playing the composer's music and really pouring that out. And so in a sense of like a little bit of like creating a child or creating another human being in a sense, not totally. I know that's absolutely true. But just seeing it from that point of view and just having and pouring your emotion into this and really giving to that, which actually leads me to the church and leads me to faith and leads me to faith and reason, but also, faith of like, I pour myself into the faith and pour my blood, sweat, and tears, soul, and just my humanity into the faith and especially into my relationship with Christ. And that comes back to me a bajillion fold.
That's actually real. That is a legit. No, that's a real. Yeah,
there's a lot of zeros after it. But in the process of like really finding that foothold too, music was incorporated to that, whether it's contemporary Christian or traditional hymns or even traditional chant. Just like some of the stuff that was just created back in the day is just so beautiful with Bach and Handel, and just really bringing that into the church. But also today, like even today, composers of like or artists of Matt Maher and Sarah Kroger in the Catholic realm. And really, Icondola too was a really big inspiration of kind of like helping me really go deeper into my faith too. So I think for me, like music plays a pivotal role in my life of like, I need music to help me process sometimes, But there are times where it's quiet time.
Yes, no, one always needs quiet time. Now, viewers, you may not know this, but musicians often hate the general question, but I have to ask the question. Do you have a favorite era or style of music that you take, or composer? Because everyone always says that. Who's your favorite composer? And I'm like, well, It depends on the day.
Mine is
It depends on what I'm doing.
Aaron Slayback.
Aaron is the greatest composer we know.
It's funny, no one's really heard my stuff, so that's okay. But it's okay. It's okay. I composed one thing way back when I was in high school, but it just like
It stays in high school.
I enjoyed composing it, but it stays. So it's definitely before I understood music and instrumentation and all that. I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have. Anyway, so I would say my favorite composer is probably going to be Gustav Holst.
Okay.
Reason being is because a lot of Gustav Holst feeds into a lot of composers today, especially in the movie realm.
Mm.
You hear a lot of Holst in is specifically John Williams. Like he even it's like Holst is kind of his big, because he loves how Holst was just so, every piece was just like this masterpiece that he did, and it was just like a little bit over the top almost all the time, but not really. But it was almost like a theatrical thing going on for.
Yeah.
Oh, let's listen to the soundtrack.
No, yeah, it's in his, like, the planets. It's just a cinematic. You just go through it and you just imagine. You don't even have to see the pictures.
Yep. My favorite pieces from Gustav Holst, although I love the Planet Suite, are the two, the suite, Military Suite in F and Military Suite in E flat.
Okay.
For brass bands.
As a brass man yourself.
Military bands, I guess is. But they're just really cool because they have a breadth of different musical genres in there, and it's just, it has like just different things and all that. But I'm also a very good, not very good, but I really appreciate vocal music. And so one of my favorite composers right now for vocal music, contemporary especially, is Eric Whitacre.
Okay.
And he has done some amazing stuff. He's also an instrumental composer too, so the breadth of that is just amazing. And so we sang a few of that whenever I was going through music education in Troy, and I really fell in love with him. So there's just a lot. There, like you said, there's so many.
There's so many, and it's amazing.
There's so many.
Yes.
And then my Matt Maher is probably one of my favorite, along with Sarah Croca, as far as contemporary Christian music.
Do you have a favorite piece to play, like when you were performing?
Yeah. Well. Yes. So my favorite thing to play was when I was in a marching band. We have this thing that was actually composed by one of our band directors, known as the 1965 Fanfare, that Troy University Sound of the South played before every halftime performance.
Okay.
It was my favorite thing to play because the trombone section had like this really, really awesome part in it, and so we could just be as loud as we wanted, obnoxious, and everybody just cheered.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was great. And not to mention everybody, it was like so iconic and recognizable from the area. And so whenever you played it, everybody just went crazy anyway.
That's awesome.
So it was really cool. Like, yeah, it's cool to sit down and play some Holst or some Wagner or something like that. But, I don't know, just something.
The fan favorite.
Yeah. It's a fan favorite. Yeah.
Someone's got to always have one of those.
Absolutely.
I played the triangle as well.
He was very eloquent.
It's the most,
when he was.
It's one of the most important instruments, surprisingly enough. People don't.
I actually played trombone for like a semester or for a year, I guess, in middle school. I forget, like, semesters are different. But I played the trombone. I barely know how to play it anymore, but, I was kind of into it a little bit.
And most people don't realize, like, trombone looks like it's going to be easy, but it's actually more difficult to master than some other instruments. Mainly because, like, you have to be so precise where you
slide.
Yeah, where you put your slide.
Yeah. It's like first position, third. What's that?
With like other brass instruments, you have valves that are able to do, just push down and know what's going on. French horn is another beast, especially if you have a two-sided E flat and F horn. But what we're good with, that's another topic.
Yeah.
But it is difficult to master and to grow into, especially when you're playing more classical understandings, classical pieces. Now, if you're playing jazz pieces, it's actually probably
whatever you want,
easier or sure to play. Well, not
just slide.
I mean, there is some truth to, like, you can do whatever you want with jazz as long as you stay in the key. You can do whatever you want. But like with the trombone, it's like it's like it's made to be a jazz instrument, even though it's not, because it's made way before jazz was even invented. But it's like it just leans itself to the jazz jazz blues kind of genre. So it's really fun. It's really fun to play.
That's great.
So on the elevator,
We're now moving to the 8th floor.
moving up, and we're going to talk about your youth minister days.
Yes.
So I guess in a nutshell, what has been your most,
Don't mean talking about nutshells.
what's been your most like that one moment that's like just been your favorite, the highlight of your ministry? One that really just stands out and saying like, this is a pivotal moment in my days as a youth minister that possibly alluded to you and using that as a discernment tool for the priesthood. What has been that one moment?
Sure. I think for me, it was the end of my 4th year. Actually, it's kind of like the beginning of my 5th year, but I started in April. But it was me graduating my first class of high schoolers. I was there whenever they were freshmen, or when I entered freshman at high school, and then
You walked with them until
I walked through them. I got them confirmed. Well, their parents got them confirmed. I let be confirmed.
you did it. You actually
guided.
I was not the one who
Guided their soul.
No.
To the bishop.
I hopefully guided them well. And then just like having that senior farewell and having that senior night was just, it was one of those. It's one of those accomplishments like, not a lot of people can say, and I realize how much sacred ground that is of saying that I helped hopefully bring people closer to Christ in that moment, especially a demographic that is just throwing off religion and not really wanting to be a part of it. We had a really solid group of kids who stuck with it and who went through trials and tribulations, but still stayed with the faith. And it was a beautiful thing to see them grow up from where they were in as a freshman to where they are as seniors. And even like seeing some of them today, there's a few of them that are married, have kids, and so it's good to see. It's good to see that later, also, but it's good to see that there. And so it was one of those. It's one of those turning points of like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be in ministry, and so do I continue here in ministry? But it was one of those. It wasn't one of those like, I'm done, move on kind of things. But it was like, what more can you give me, Lord? You give me this. What more can you give me? And he's like, well, probably. So that was probably one of my bigger. I mean, there's being in youth ministry, which you've talked about with youth ministry. I'm pretty sure you probably have at some point, but there's a bunch of moments in youth ministry that you can say that was great, that was great, that was great, that was great. And they all add up to be youth ministry, So it's not like, oh, well, we had this kid, and it's like, well, it's part of the story. It's not the culmination. I think that's why that memory sticks out for me.
Yeah.
Not only because we had a messy night that night, and I got completely messed. There was paint and chocolate, and
paint and chocolate.
Yeah, so like you have a
We repainted the whole
church.
So you have how you have like messy games and everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, of course.
Well, we had some paint to do most of the messy games. One of them was like create. Also, we had food because it was like Create a Sunday, and
I can see where this is going.
And by the end of the night, I apparently was painted and sun
Oh,
at the same time.
okay.
So it was not part of the plan, but
Things happen.
It's part of the plan.
Things happen in confirmation class,
that was yeah.
Well, so it's funny. So I can kind of like share that same sentiment of there's plenty of different graces I kind of find throughout your ministry. At the time of recording this, just yesterday, this past Saturday, I was able to attend another wedding of one of the friends that I've had throughout the years of ministry that I had. And so part of the grace is not necessarily that I found within my time working in these youth groups, but after the fact.
Yeah.
Now continuing my 6 year in formation, and now seeing them up until that point when I saw them first walking the faith, they've come all the way this far to become married.
Yeah.
That kind of in itself is such an amazing grace, and knowing like I was just a little bit part of that story, and knowing like I kind of like fostered their faith together, not only as individuals but as a couple as well.
Yeah.
And I said it too, kind of in that, in the reception. I kind of think to myself, I can't wait, God willing, to be a priest in these moments, to really be like a guiding factor more than I can be just as a seminarian or just as a layman, but just really being like spearheading someone's marriage and being like, just like I want to like foster like a married couple for the kingdom, you know, and not only married couples, but anybody and everybody. But seeing that years and years after my ministry, it was just like, this is amazing.
I think you're right about that, especially like just seeing that after the fact. But I think that also leads into probably one of your questions, because it normally comes up in when people ask me about ministry. What's the most difficult thing in ministry? And I think it's that.
Yeah.
I think it's pouring your heart, soul into individuals, and hopefully they come to a better understanding of who Jesus Christ is and how he, you know, died for our sins, rose from the dead so we can have eternal life with his Father, with our Father, and not knowing if that's stuck until like later. I think that's some of the hardest parts, because I know there were times where you just get so frustrated with like you're trying to do this and sometimes they don't get it, or you hear about, you know, something is like, thought they were, you know, but you don't, sometimes you don't see, sometimes you get to see it during, but sometimes, a lot of times you won't see it until later of like the fruits of what's going on. And that's okay. And it takes a while for a new minister kind of to get used to that, to kind of understand that we're planting seeds, and once we've planted seeds, it's out of our hands.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's where our faith kicks in, of like, Christ, you have this.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
There's nothing, you know, Holy Spirit, please guide them. But
that's where you say, Jesus, take the wheel.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Boston band.
Please.
Oh, now. You can go to Six Flags and Steubenville, Atlanta. I'll stay.
Go for it. Yeah, I'll stay here.
Go ahead and do that.
I'll take care of the fort.
So that is, I mean, yeah. and it's hard, because it's like, especially for, you know, for guys who want to be parents, who want to foster, or who want to have kids of their own, like just being able to be like you said, be a part of this journey of not only of these teenagers, but of the families that you're able to be incorporated into their lives, and feel really a part of their lives as well. At some of their best and some of the worst and some of the most interesting moments of their lives. So it's also a glimpse, I think, of priestly ministry too, in a sense that you're feeding them and you're being that fostering arm of the church, of being able to help them and show them the church is here for them. Christ is always going to be there.
And I think that leads perfectly into the next question, which you kind of answered, but it's like, what do we look forward to most in the prospect or the desire, the love to become a priest? And as you go in, and like the desire to be able to walk with people, to be present, to be able to make Christ present through us, because we don't really do anything. Thank God, it's the Lord who does it through us.
Jesus take the wheel.
Oh yeah. But is there anything in particular that you look forward to, or are with great trepidation, eagerly desiring in your priesthood?
Confessions.
Oh
my gosh. Like,
there it is.
That is my hope and prayer, and I've prayed this ever since I've entered. Like, Lord, if it's will for me to be a priest, and like now that is changing because I'm getting closer and I'm becoming have this understanding of like, okay, this is probably it. But it's like, don't ever let me lose my zeal for confession and wanting to be that mercy to others. Because we don't, you know, like you said, we're not the ones that are giving mercy. We're not the ones that are giving forgiveness, but we are the ones that are allowing the opportunity for that encounter to happen, for forgiveness and mercy of Christ. And there have been priests that I've met throughout my ministry and throughout my life that aren't open and aren't willing to be a part of that. And it hurts and it saddens me. And so like, that's my constant prayer of like, never let me be stagnant. Never let me really take for granted the mercy that you are given to people through my willingness to be just in a box in the confessional. You know, all I have to do is show up. You know, and I really want to do that. Like, I'm a sinner and I need confession all the time. So I want to make sure people receive that as well and are able to feel as fantastic as I do once I'm able to be out of that confession and really just engage in that relationship with Christ again.
One of the more beautiful things that I've heard from one of the pastors in Miami. So is certain parishes, there's certain hours that confession is available, whether that's before Mass, whether that's a certain time in the day. I mean, it varies throughout all the different parishes in every diocese. But he made it very, very clear from day one when he was made pastor of a parish, and he said, if you find me, confession is available.
Yeah.
And he made that very much like a point to every homily, to every meeting, wherever he was, he made it a point. If you find me, confessions are available. And he would tell us, all the seminarians, when we had convocation or when we were at the cathedral, and when he would find us, he would tell us that.
Yeah.
He said, always be available for confessions. And if people aren't asking you for it, tell them it's still there for you. Because sometimes people are afraid. Sometimes people are kind of hesitant to be like, Father, can you hear my confession? Sometimes they're too embarrassed because of whatever sin they might have committed. Or, the pride of not being able to go to a priest and saying, hey, I messed up, I need confession. And so he would really be adamant in telling the people, confession, I'm here. Yeah. Wherever you are, or wherever I am, you find me.
Or it's the fear of it's inconvenient. We don't want inconvenience, Father. So it's that double-sided of like, well, when can I actually do this? Is it only in that 1 hour?
Right.
Yeah. So
I think I got this conviction not only from my experience in the confession and receiving absolution and mercy from God, from Jesus, but from a Catholic speaker, Chris Stefanik. Hopefully I said that name right.
Chris.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Stefanik. Yes. I was watching him. I think he was at Steubenville, Atlanta one year, and he was talking about because we were getting ready to start. It was like the opening, and he was kind of encouraging everybody to go to confession, and he basically said it like this: of like, we got a lot of people in the United States that need healing. We got a lot of people in the world that need healing. We got a lot of people that are turning away from Jesus. And even within the church, we have a lot of conversion that needs to happen. And he said, conversion will not start in our nation, in our church, in the world, until our confessional lines are longer than our Eucharist.
Drops mic.
Yeah.
And of course, he's not saying that the Eucharist is not the source of some of the faith, and by all means we need to come to it all the time. But we also have to recognize of who we are and how we need the mercy before we can step in front of the true presence of Christ and receive him in an intimate way, and make sure that we're ready to receive him fully. Because we can receive him, have we're weak. But but if like we're not fully receiving him because we're not in, obviously if you're in the state of more saying, please don't receive. But at the same time, it's like we can wake up and just be like in a lull, and sometimes confession, we need to go to confession to kind of
shake us out of it,
wake us up, and get us back into. And so it's like recognizing that confession isn't like going to visit the doctor or something like that. Confession is a sacrament that we are invited to as often as we can. It's one of the few sacraments that we can receive as often as we can.
Yes. So going into the next question, do you have any hobbies that you like to do?
Oh,
in your time prior to being able to fill all your free time with confession.
Yes. So I like to read. I like to study theology.
Of course. Yes. We'll be watching this.
Oh, yes. Reading everything we can.
From when I was a young guy, a young boy,
A young lad.
a young lad.
A young warthog.
Yes, a young warthog. I really started and grew up loving certain things, and one of them was building Legos.
Hey.
Yeah,
I used to step on them always as a kid. It sucked.
It did. But the pain of that in the building just kind of
It balanced out.
And so in my adult years, I have found the love for building Legos as an adult. And people are like, "You're building Legos? Aren't you like too old to be Legos?" Maybe. But I will say this: it does bring me a sense of focus a little bit too, especially when I'm like feeling either stressed or there's a lot of weakness or something going on it. It kind of helps me center myself, but it also helps me. It helps me construct something that I can like see what I'm doing, and I don't have to worry about chopping my hand off or doing something like woodworking or something. Woodworking is fantastic. It's a great time. I just know
you just don't have that do it. You don't have all the tools at hand.
And I don't want to, I don't want to, do that. I don't want to lose a finger or anything. But I do love building Legos, and it's a real joy. And like I said, it centers me, but it also helps me. I can do it as a prayer too, a little bit, as I'm building this thing, whatever it might be. Most of the time it's by plan, by design, and so that's one of my bigger hobbies of just being able to do that. My second biggest hobby is kind of nerdy, but it is looking at liturgical reform and understanding the liturgy and just really diving into the liturgy. Again, going back from when I was getting my first communion, I really wanted to know about the liturgy, about the priesthood in those arms from a basic point of view, and so just diving into understanding why does the liturgy look the way it looks today? How did it get there? What does that look, and what were some of the norms and everything like that? So some of my hobbies.
Very good. There's a hobby you did not mention, which is the very reason why all of this is all actually a thing. Yeah. Which is, so where did your, hobby, or where did your interest come from of all of the tech, editing, audio, software, and all of that put together, sort of?
Yeah. So that started, again, back when I was, most hobbies start when you were younger. So back whenever I was younger, we did not have iPhones or Mac. Well, there was, I think the Mac might have just come out, like the very first Mac. But, and so I was there on the beginning of like personal computers and really being able to customize personal home computers and everything. And so just learning the intricacies of that, and just grew from there of like, okay, so this is a floppy drive. That's what the floppy drive does. Okay, so I have to plug this into a power supply. And so because the power supply gives the power to the floppy drive, and so it just builds from there. And so from there, it moved into technology with music and everything with Mighty Great, which kind of moved into audio principles and understanding soundboards and the way the voice structures and why feedback happens. Feedback is really bad, so it shouldn't happen. And, just understanding all that and that led eventually into ministry of being, doing a lot of that kind of stuff in ministry. But then when COVID hit, like, oh, technology, so you're going to learn. And so
live stream everything now.
And so I started really diving into that kind of understanding of what live streaming, what different cameras were and what that looked like, and different programs to be able to do things. I never really thought I was going to actually be a part of doing a podcast. I like listening to podcasts.
Hey, we're here.
But I didn't think I was going to be here. But we are here. And I'm glad that we are here. And so, yeah. So it just happens sometimes.
I'm just so good at so many things. Whatever.
I wouldn't say that.
No, but so sort of like close off and like round off this episode, I am very thankful for your many, many talents, not only of your experience as the youth minister and that we didn't mention this, last year he was our dean of the class. So many of his experiences really fed into that and helped us throughout our first year of theology here. But more immediate to this podcast is all your talents and everything that you have done so far for all of this, again, to really just happen. Thank you. But thank you for being with us now in front of the camera, not behind. And I'm going to let you do the final send-off. I know you know what we do because you were there at every episode.
He was there when it was written.
I don't even know if it was written, but it happened.
He was in the room where it happened.
I was.
Yeah, you literally were.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for being on the show. This was great. Thank you all for being with us and following us, follow along with us. And it's great to introduce myself and say hi to everybody. And we'll see you guys next time because we're in formation. God bless you guys.
Information, a seminarian-produced podcast from St. Vincent de Paul Regional Seminary with hosts Gabriel Campos and Michael Santos. Follow and subscribe to St. Vincent de Paul Regional Seminary's YouTube channel, updates for future episodes of Season 2. And please visit our website at www.svdp.edu/information-podcast for more information about this podcast and to see all podcast platforms we are available.